A waitress solves a guest's problem in 6 languages. Unaware her customer was a global CEO billionaire. What if a single act of kindness could change your entire life forever? Elena Martinez wiped down the worn Formica counter at Rosie's diner for the 100th time that morning, her calloused hands moving with practiced efficiency. The coffee was bitter, the vinyl booths cracked, and most days she wondered how she'd scrape together enough for her daughter's college textbooks. But Elena had something money couldn't buy, a heart that recognized pain in any language. When the well-dressed stranger stumbled through the door that drizzly Tuesday morning, clutching his phone and speaking rapid German into it, most people would have turned away. His expensive suit was wrinkled, his silver hair disheveled, and desperation clouded his tired eyes. Ella Lenina didn't know that this moment would unravel everything she thought she knew about fate, or that her simple gesture of helping a lost soul would reveal secrets that would leave her breathless. "Where are you watching from tonight?" Ella Lenina had been working at Rosie's diner for 12 years, ever since her husband passed and left her raising their daughter Isabella alone. The little restaurant sat on a forgotten corner of downtown Chicago, where business people rarely ventured unless they were truly desperate. She'd learned bits of different languages from the diverse neighborhood. Spanish from her childhood, French from night classes she'd taken years ago, dreaming of travel, and German from her elderly neighbor Mrs. Weber, who'd become like family. The stranger collapsed into booth 7, his hands shaking as he fumbled with his phone. Helena approached cautiously, her server's instinct telling her this wasn't about coffee and pie. "Then Sheldegem," he said, looking up with bloodshot eyes. "Deutsch." "A little," Elena replied gently in German. Then switched to English. "What can I help you with, sir?" His name was Klaus, and between his broken English and her rusty German, the story tumbled out. He'd flown from Munich for an emergency. His granddaughter Emma was in Chicago Children's Hospital after a car accident. He'd been traveling for 18 hours. His phone had died. He'd lost his charger, and the taxi driver had dropped him at the wrong address. He was supposed to be at an important business meeting, but all he cared about was finding Emma. Elena's maternal heart recognized his panic immediately. "My daughter's at Northwestern studying nursing," she said, already reaching for her own phone. "Let me call the hospital and get directions." And here she unplugged the phone charger from behind the register. "Charge your phone." As Klaus's phone powered up, dozens of messages flooded in. Helena caught glimpses of names and numbers that meant nothing to her. But she noticed how his face tightened with each notification. "So many people needing things," he muttered in German, then looked up apologetically. "My company. They don't understand about family emergencies." Elena made the calls. Children's Hospital confirmed Emma was stable, but asking for her grandfather. Elena wrote down clear directions, even sketching a little map on a napkin. But when Klaus tried to call a taxi, every company quoted a 40-minute wait. Rush hour traffic had gridlocked the city. "I'll drive you," Elena said without hesitation. Klaus stared at her. "But your work?" Elena glanced around the nearly empty diner. Her manager Jerry was in the back office, probably asleep. She'd been covering extra shifts for months, never taking breaks, never asking for favors. Isabella would understand. This man needed help. And Elena had never been able to turn away from someone in genuine need. "Jerry," she called toward the back. "Family emergency. I'll be back in an hour." As they walked to her beat-up Honda Civic, Elena noticed Klaus checking his phone anxiously. 3 missed calls from someone named Board Chairman Davidson. His jaw tightened and he silenced the phone. "Some things are more important than business," he said quietly. But Elena detected worry beneath his words. Neither of them knew that Klaus's decision to ignore those calls would trigger a chain of events that would transform both their lives in ways they couldn't imagine. During the 20-minute drive through Chicago's congested streets, Elena learned that Klaus had started his business from nothing 40 years ago. "Like you," he said, watching her navigate traffic with practiced skill. "Working hard, caring for family first, She told him about Isabella's pre-med dreams, about working double shifts to afford tuition, about the scholarship applications they'd sent out, hoping for a miracle. At the hospital, Elena waited in the lobby while Klaus reunited with 8-year-old Emma. Through the window, she watched him kneel beside the hospital bed, his stern businessman facade melting away as he held his granddaughter's small hand. Emma was chattering in rapid German, and Klaus was smiling, really smiling for the first time since Elenina had met him. When Klaus returned an hour later, his eyes were bright with relief. "She'll be fine. Children are so resilient," he paused, studying Elena's face. "I cannot repay your kindness." "You don't need to," Elena said simply. "I'm just glad Emma's okay." As they drove back to the diner, Klaus's phone rang incessantly. Finally, he answered with obvious reluctance. Elena could only understand fragments of the heated German conversation, but Klaus's voice grew increasingly tense. When he hung up, his face was pale. "Problems at work?" Elenina asked gently. Klaus was quiet for a long moment. "I missed a very important meeting. The board is not happy." He looked out the window. 40 years I've built this company. Can't they question my priorities? Because I chose my granddaughter over their conference call." Elenina pulled into the diner's parking lot, but neither made a move to get out. "What kind of company is it?" "Manufacturing. We make medical devices, heart monitors, surgical instruments. We employ 12,000 people across 6 countries. Klaus's voice carried both pride and weariness. "I started with nothing but an idea and a loan from my father-in-law. Now it's worth billions, and sometimes I wonder if that success has cost me the things that truly matter." Elenina's breath caught. "Billions?" She looked at this rumpled, exhausted man who'd been so desperate to reach his granddaughter, and suddenly understood why those phone calls had seemed so urgent. "But you made the right choice today," she said softly. "Emma will remember that you chose her." Klaus turned to face her, and Elena saw something shift in his expression. "You know, in all my years of business, I've met thousands of employees, executives, board members. But I've never met anyone quite like you, Elena Martinez. If this moment touched your heart, please give the video a thumbs up." As they sat in the parking lot, Klaus's phone buzzed with a text message. He glanced at it and his face darkened. "They've called an emergency board meeting for tomorrow morning. They want to discuss my commitment to the company." He looked at Elena with something that might have been fear. 40 years and they're questioning whether I should remain as CEO. Elenina's heart sank. She'd helped this kind man reach his granddaughter, but had she inadvertently cost him everything he'd worked for? The next morning, Elena couldn't concentrate on anything. Every customer's order blurred together as she imagined Klaus facing a room full of angry executives, who didn't understand that some things mattered more than profit margins. She'd grown up watching her father work himself to exhaustion at the steel mill, always putting the boss's demands before family dinners or school plays. The idea that Klaus might lose everything for choosing love over business made her chest tight with familiar anger. Around noon, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Elenina, this is Klaus. I wanted you to know the board meeting is in 1 hour. Whatever happens yesterday was the most important day I've had in years. Thank you for reminding me who I am beneath all the titles and expectations." Elena stared at the message, then at the lunch crowd mechanically eating their sandwiches. None of them knew that somewhere across the city a good man was about to be punished for having a heart. She thought about Isabella, studying late into the night, working toward dreams that seemed impossibly expensive. She thought about her own mother, who'd cleaned office buildings for 30 years and never once complained about the people who looked right through her. "Jerry," she called to her manager. "I need the afternoon off." Jerry looked up from his crossword puzzle. "Helena, you haven't taken time off in 2 years. Everything okay?" "I need to help someone," she said, already untying her apron. Elena had never been inside a skyscraper like the gleaming tower that housed Klaus's company. The marble lobby intimidated her, and the security guard initially refused to let her up without an appointment. But Elena had Isabella's stubborn streak. Ken she wasn't leaving until she'd said what needed saying. "Tell them Elena Martinez is here about Klaus Bear," she told the receptionist on the 42nd floor. "Tell them it's about yesterday." The boardroom was exactly what Elena expected. Polished wood, leather chairs, and men in expensive suits who looked like they'd never worked a day with their hands. Klaus sat at the head of the table, his face carefully composed, but his shoulders tense. When he saw Elena through the glass wall, his eyes widened in shock. "I'm sorry to interrupt," Elena said as a secretary ushered her in. "But I couldn't let you gentlemen make a decision based on incomplete information." The board chairman, a stern man with silver temples, looked annoyed. "Ma'am, this is a private meeting. Yesterday, your CEO saved a little girl's day by choosing to be her grandfather first and your employee second," Elena said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "I was there. I saw a man who's built something incredible over 40 years, but who still knows that family comes before quarterly reports. Have you ever faced something like this? Let us know in the comments. You want to fire him for having priorities," Elena continued, "for remembering that the medical devices you manufacture are meant to help families like his. That little girl, Emma, will grow up knowing her grandfather chose her over everything else. That's the kind of man leading your company." The room fell silent. Klaus was staring at her with an expression she couldn't read, and Elena suddenly wondered if she'd made a terrible mistake. Board Chairman Davidson leaned forward, his expression unreadable. "And you are?" "Elena Martinez. I'm a waitress at Rosie's Diner." Elena's hands trembled slightly, but her voice remained strong. "Yesterday Klaus was lost and desperate, and I helped him find his way to his granddaughter. Today I'm here because good people shouldn't be punished for having hearts." The boardroom erupted in murmurs. Elena caught fragments. "Waitress, inappropriate security." But Klaus stood up slowly, his eyes never leaving Elena's face. "Gentlemen," Klaus said, his voice carrying decades of authority, "this woman drove a stranger across Chicago yesterday because she saw someone in need. She asked nothing in return. She left her job to help someone she just met." He gestured toward Elena. "This is exactly the kind of person I want representing our company's values." Davidson's face re-eamed. "Klaus, your sentimentality is exactly the problem. We're running a business, not a charity." "Are we?" Klaus moved around the table with new energy. "Because I seem to remember starting this company to create medical devices that save lives. When did we forget that behind every heart monitor is a family praying their loved one comes home?" Helena watched, amazed as Klaus transformed before her eyes. Gone was the exhausted, worried grandfather from yesterday. This was a man who'd built an empire and wasn't about to let anyone forget why. "Elena," Klaus said, turning to her, "would you tell the board what you do when you see someone struggling at your restaurant?" Elena's mouth went dry, but she thought of Isabella and found her courage. "Help them. Whether they can pay or not, whether they're rude or kind, whether they're wearing expensive suits or worn-out clothes, because that's what people do for each other." Klaus nodded. Yesterday, Elena embodied everything our mission statement claims to represent. Compassion, service, putting human needs first. He faced the board. "If you want to fire me for spending one afternoon with my injured granddaughter, do it. But don't pretend it's about company values, because this woman has shown more understanding of our true purpose in 2 days than this board has in 2 years." The silence stretched until Davidson cleared his throat uncomfortably. "Perhaps we were hasty. The missed meeting was unfortunate, but the meeting was about third-quarter projections," Klaus interrupted. "Emma was about a little girl who needed her grandfather. If you can't tell the difference, maybe you're the ones who shouldn't be making decisions for this company." Elena saw several board members exchange glances. The youngest one, a woman with kind eyes, spoke up. "Klaus has increased our profits by 300% over the past decade while maintaining the highest safety standards in the industry. Perhaps we should focus on supporting rather than questioning his judgment." If you've been enjoying this story, subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming tales. Klaus smiled, the same genuine smile Elena had seen at the hospital. "Elena, would you join me for coffee?" I think we have some things to discuss. As they left the boardroom together, Elena caught Davidson muttering to another board member. Who is this woman, and how did she just save his career? 3 weeks later, Elena stood in the gleaming lobby of Weber Medical Technologies, wearing a navy blue dress Isabella had helped her pick out. The security guard who'd initially turned her away now greeted her with a warm smile. Good morning, Ms. Martinez. Mr. Weber is expecting you. Klaus's office overlooked Lake Michigan, but Elena's attention was drawn to the framed photo on his desk. Emma, smiling brightly from her hospital bed, holding a drawing she'd made for her grandfather. Next to it sat a folded napkin with Elena's hand-drawn map to the hospital. I can't believe you kept that, Elena said, laughing. It reminds me of the day someone showed me what true leadership looks like, Klaus replied. Speaking of which, I have something for you. He handed her an envelope. Inside was a check that made Elena's knees weak. Klaus, I can't accept this. I just gave you a ride. You saved my career and reminded me who I am, Klaus said gently. But that's not what this is for. He gestured toward the window. See that building across the street? Weber Medical is opening a new community outreach center there. We'll provide free medical services to families who can't afford health care, and we need someone to run it. Someone who understands what it means to help people regardless of their circumstances. Elena stared at him. You want me to run it? This salary is what's in that envelope annually. Klaus smiled at her stunned expression. We'll also establish a scholarship fund in Isabella's name for children of service workers pursuing medical careers. Full tuition, books, everything. Elena sank into a chair, overwhelmed. Klaus, I'm just a waitress. I don't have experience with. You have something more valuable than experience. You have wisdom and compassion. Klaus sat across from her. Do you know what I've learned in 40 years of business? The best leaders aren't always the ones with the most degrees or experience. They're the ones who see a problem and immediately think, how can I help? 2 months later, Elena walked through the bustling community center, watching volunteer doctors examine children whose parents worked multiple jobs, helping elderly patients navigate Medicare forms, coordinating with local schools to provide health education. Isabella, home from her first semester of college, now fully paid for, worked alongside her mother during breaks, translating for Spanish speaking families. Klaus visited weekly, usually bringing Emma, who'd become the Cent's unofficial mascot. The little girl had fully recovered and loved helping Elena organize the children's area. Tur Elena, Emma called her Aunt Elena, and the title meant more to Elena than any corporate position ever could. On a quiet Tuesday afternoon, Delena stood in the same spot where Klaus had first stumbled into Rosa's diner, desperate and lost. Now, instead of worn Formica counters, she saw families receiving care they thought they'd never afford. Instead of worried about rent, she was planting the Cent's expansion into mental health services. Sometimes kindness plants seeds in the most unexpected soil, and those seeds grow into something beautiful that feeds an entire community. Elena had learned that helping one person find their way can illuminate paths for countless others. If you enjoyed this story, please remember to like, leave a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe for more heartwarming tales. Thank you for joining Elena's journey. May it remind you that every act of kindness, no matter how small, has the power to change the